Okay, so we've done our little bee. This is our little bee design, and we want to put this into our resin mould. So the first thing we need to do, and it's very small and we've done it just inside the lines, is we need to cut it out. So that's the next thing that I'm going to do. So I'm just going to chop it out of the material very crudely, and then I can chop it out a little bit better. Do my left hand. Alright, so I've chopped it out just there like that. I'm just going to trim it out here like this. Okay, so that's our little bee trimmed out of our fabric just there. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need to trim it out a lot neater. Okay, so now we need to trim it out properly. Make sure we've not got any stray ends at the back either, because all of those little stray ends need to come off. Okay, so we're just going to trim out, and the best thing that you can do first before you trim out is to put a bit of Fray Check onto the design. So we're going to do that first. So this is the Fray Check that I use, and we're going to just put it around the edge of our design. Try not to get it too gloopy and thick, and then we need to leave that to dry for a little bit. Oops. Okay, so wait for that to dry, and then we can cut it out properly. This is all nice and dry now. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to just chop around. Now when you're chopping, just be careful that you don't cut the threads at the back. So what you might want to do is just hold those threads in a little bit while you're chopping out the front. Okay, you want to chop it quite tight. Okay, now here we've put a little stitch at the end, but there's no stitches on this little bit here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just stitch it right into the edge of the so just inside of that line where the brass mesh is. Okay, I'm going to take this one and I'm going to just trim in here. And then it'll just come around there like that. Just be careful you don't trim the brass mesh. Okay, and then we're just going to come around here, and I'm cutting away the tacking stitches, but that's fine, that doesn't matter. So then what we're going to do is, see how I'm just going underneath that little blob there, because we stitched that like a loop into the header area so that it wasn't going to get in the way. So I'm going to come round here, I'm just going to ignore that little bit there for the time being. Just trim that off there, and then I'm just going to nip that out a little bit like that. Okay. Okay. So look at that on the back. Yeah, that's fine. So there we go. There's our little bee, and he's just cut nicely. Okay, so we're going to put him in the resin. Now, just before we do that, we need to cut out another piece of felt. So I'm going to do that now. Let's put him over there. Okay, so we need to cut our little shape out of our felt, and that's going to be the backing on our piece of work. So I'm just going to trim around here. Try and keep it nice and tight. Okay. Just going to bring that around there. Put our little bee there so we can see it in all its finery. So take each one of the bits away. Okay. This is our big wing at the top there. Once you've trimmed it out, you can then just make sure that it's all right. Make sure that you're using sharp scissors, because if you don't, then they just tend to chomp it and chew it as opposed to properly cut it. Okay, so can you see how we've got that little bit there that needs to just pinch out just a little fraction. Like that. And then got our wings. Just going to trim that end off there. It's just a little bit too big. And we clearly need to just come in there a little bit. So let's put that down there now. Just need to catch that. There we go. So there is our little bee base. Okay, so we've got our bee base and we've got our bee, and now we need to do our resin. Okay, so we're at the stage where we're going to put our piece of work into our mould and we're going to pour our resin in. Now, please be aware that when you're applying your design, you definitely get your bee the right way round. As you can see, I've got two beautiful little bees here. One is facing one way and one is facing the other way. Now, at first sight, it would seem that this one is facing the right way, but in actual fact, it's this one that's the right way round, because when you flip it over to put it in, this is right and this one is wrong. So you need to be fully aware that you get it the right way round at the beginning. So we've got two pots and one has got less in than the other. Take the pot with the most liquid in. Okay, so we're just going to unscrew our pots there like that. Okay, so I'm going to pour the one with the most liquid into the one with the least amount of liquid and pour it all in there. Let's wait for it to trickle out. Be a little bit on the gloopy side. Okay, so just be aware of that. You might want to take your cocktail stick and gloop it in there. Okay, so once you've got that amount in, you then need to stir it together. So this is the hardener and the main resin, and you need to stir it together really, really well. So keep on stirring it and stir it for about a minute, and that makes sure that you've definitely stirred it all together. And I tend to go around the edge as well, just to make sure that you get all of it in. Okay. Do it too fast, because you do tend to get bubbles if you go too fast. Okay. So I'm just going to take that little bit off there. Okay. So the next thing that we want to do, I'm just going to pop that bubble. See, there's a big bubble there. Is I'm going to pour a little tiny bit of it into the mould. Very, very carefully. So I'm going to pour a bit into each of the wings and a bit into the body. Okay, like that. And I'm just going to push it around, make sure that it's gone into all the little crevices. Okay, into the abdomen just over there. Okay, and once I've done that, I'm then going to poke my correct bee, not my incorrect bee, so let's move him out of the way. Let's put our correct bee into the mould. Okay, so I'm just going to move this down into the centre there. Okay, so I'm going to just tweak that into this area here. Okay, make sure that that's all in. Push it down. Okay. What I am going to do is I'm just going to snip. I'm going to snip that little bit now. If you've not quite got it in the right place, you might want to snip it and then adjust it so that it goes into the right area. Okay. Now I'm using my good tweezers. Be aware that if you're using your good tweezers, you do need to give them a good wipe off afterwards. So I'm going to push all that down. Okay, it's still sticking up a little bit, and I'm going to pour a little bit more my resin into the mould now. Okay. Right. And again, I'm going to just spread that out into my area. Okay. Spread it out. Okay, and then we're going to put our backing on. So just make sure that you've got it the right way around. So this is our little bit of backing. And again, need to make sure that we're pushing that down into our area. Okay. And then we're going to put a final little blob of resin. Now you'll have loads of resin in order for you to do this with. You'll have too much, to be honest, so just be aware that there will be too much. Don't be pouring all of it in there. This has gone slightly gloopy because I've left it a little bit on the long side, so it won't be quite as gloopy as this is. Okay, so we're just going to push it along. It's more likely to form into our areas a lot better than this actually is on this piece, because as I said, it will form, it will just soak better in because it won't be quite as gloopy as this one is. So just scoot up a slight extra bit. Okay. Just going to scoop up a slight extra bit there as well, just to pop on there. Push it down into our area. Let's get a slight bit more just for our antenna area. Okay, now at this stage you've got to make your decision for your piece for your key ring. Okay, so the key ring either needs to be drilled into this top one here. Now, can you see how I've got some stuff that's on the end of there? I'm just going to wipe that off. So I'm going to wipe that off the ends, because if actually I kept them together like that, they would end up sticking together. So I'm just going to wipe any resin residue off those. So if you want to set it into the piece, you can set it in like that. Can you see how that's just in there? So what you can do is you can take this end and you can hold it. You'd have to make sure that you set something up so it held it, so that you can put it in the end. I'm not going to do it on this one because I'm going to demonstrate the drilling method on this one. And you could dip it in there and then you let it go in by a slight amount. Make sure that you have it at a slight angle so that when it's in the mould like that, it's at a slight angle, so that when it comes out, this will move about a lot. And you can just do, you know, you've got your little bee, and then you can put it on your key ring and it's all good. Okay, it'll still flip and flop about because it's on this little bit here. So that's our key ring, and we're going to wait for that to dry. Now when you're waiting for your resin to dry, you do want to leave it a good 24 hours is not enough. You would probably want to leave it about 72 hours to make sure that it definitely firmly set, because this one here, this has only been left for 24 hours and this is still quite malleable. So it depends on what you want to do with it, but we want it to be hard. We don't want it to be malleable like that. So this one, although I've taken it out of here, I have left it for quite some time. It's been left for 24 hours, but it's still, as you can see, it is moving about, so you do want to leave it.